Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've got another webbot hit regarding Bitcoin and Chinese buyers. However, I need to pay a little respect to a young 22-year-old woman who just got shot and killed at an Orlando concert she was doing. Her name is Christina Grimmie, I think. Just heard the news myself. I remember, which I found my own video. It was only a 3-minute video. Shocker. Jason Forley did a 3-minute video. It's called Holy Blank, This Girl Is That Deal. I did this video on October 18th, 2012. And I actually just did the video specifically to mention how good this girl was. Like, you know what? You want to hear a really great singer? Check this chick out. That was it. It was all my video was about. I'd never do a video like that. But when I heard her singing on YouTube and some of the songs she was doing, I was just blown away, and I felt like, let me just share this person with everybody who would like to hear, phenomenal singer. So we read tonight, a fan came up to her, 27-year-old boy, man, whatever, had a CD in his hand, and, can you sign this? Sure. I don't know if he shot her twice or once, but she was rushed to the hospital in critical condition and thereafter died. She has been is deceased. Biggest problem of all, two biggest problems. Young 22-year-old girl has a whole life ahead of her, cut short by some deranged lunatic. Problem number two, the gun control advocates are going to be all over this. Keeping in mind, it said he had 2 guns on him and a knife of some type. So, any jackass that comes out, guns, no one needs a gun, these guns. Well, hold on. He brought a knife with him too. So if he didn't have the guns or something happened, he could stab her to death, and that was the plan, and he was within range to do so. But I gotta mainly use this time right now to give some respect to her. Phenomenal singer. Can't believe this happened, but it did. On to what my video is actually about now. I'm going to read to you the headline from Zero Hedge, and then I'm going to read you a piece of the WebBot report that I just did recently. Bitcoin spikes above $600, 2-year highs now, on sudden massive Chinese buying. Hold on a second. Wait a minute, that old pesky webbot. It's like a crystal ball. It's fake, psychic. It's nonsense. It just hit $600 since the last time it was $600, which has been over 2 years now. Webbot I just did that report about a week and a half ago, whatever it is. Actually, maybe 2 weeks now. No, I think it was on Monday. Anyways. What in the hell did the webbot go out and find in advance of this happening that would make it say that? Again, it must have found something that made it think, or the data anyways, the spiders coming back with information on Bitcoin, Chinese demand, and he even said, Cliff even did mention something about going over $600, I think, or was it $650? Six something, 600, maybe it's 600 even. Don't know. Let me just do a quick search on my summary file, because I'm not reading the whole webbot report right now. 600, how about 6? 2016, 2016, 2016, 2016. 650. Here we go. Let me read you this part first. This is from the summary that I did on the webbot report, which this is, when I do a summary, I'm reading you word for word the pieces that I'm choosing to pick out of the report. So, nearly a third of all new Bitcoin datasets contain hyperinflation subset links, or the descriptors held directly. These sets are all Federal Reserve note, aka US dollar, cross-linked, even if their primary reference is to some other form of currency. The implication from the accretion patterns of these sets is that the dollar is going to be under selling pressure, not only from China pop, but also from other parts of global pop, as their local currencies are tied to the failing dollar, the rate of rise of Bitcoin relative to the failing dollar is showing as taking a very large leg up after Bitcoin passes $650 or so in US dollars. At that point, we can safely assume that the confidence level held by the public globally regarding the Federal Reserve goes to nearly zero. Now for the part that I was looking for at first, which said look out for Bitcoin prices to start rising rapidly, and it will be due to Chinese demand. Okay, here's again, Webbot report right here. China Pop has a number of new sets going to the idea that Bitcoin is going to cross the Chinese chasm in 2016, as more than 100 million Chinese will attempt to purchase Bitcoin this year. As many may be expected, this shift in popular sentiment is forecast to have a very significant impact on the fiat currency price of Bitcoin. The new Chinese Bitcoin owners are described in sets by language that includes rabid to own and desperate to gamble on Bitcoin appreciation. In other words, I'm gambling that the price of Bitcoin is going to go higher. And other language still growing and pending for gold. The Bitcoin desperation to get language is not only building a picture of the current Chinese owners of Bitcoin being ebullient and joyful and demonstrating public smugness, but now the data is indicating that a central authorities endorsement on top of the spectacular rise in fiat currencies is going to push Bitcoin into Chinese mainstream. As the mainstream of China Pop grabs hold of Bitcoin, the data is forecasting that the hardware and phone wallet business is going to escalate beyond the concepts of the people involved. Further, the mainstream acceptance of Bitcoin is also indicated to include use as currency, especially in the settlement of gambling debts. The data is suggesting that thousands of new to Bitcoin stories will be dominating the Chinese social media over the summer and into fall and into winter and into spring and over the next summer. All of the Chinese domination of Bitcoin language aside, the China Pop sets have very large support at several different levels for currency change. That's enough for the Bitcoin piece. So I just read you the same summary that I put together myself reading the Webbot report that Cliff High sent me. So again, this is word for word. When I do my summaries, I'm reading you word for word the report. And then I interject, and you can tell when I'm interjecting and whatnot. So we have Bitcoin spiking above $600 as of right now. 2-year highs. And again, right now, by the way, is Saturday night at 10:30 p.m. You'll see this. I was debating, should I do a second one on Sunday? Should I make this Sunday? Should I make this one Monday's video? I think I'll go ahead and release this one on Sunday. So on to the zero hedge part of this. Bitcoin spikes above $600, 2-year highs on sudden massive Chinese buying. This is why. This is the absolute prime example of why I read these Webbot reports to you. It's crazy, it's out there, it's weird, it's far out, it's whatever. But I've always said over and over and over again, I've been following this thing for years, and I've seen some spectacular hits. There's been plenty of misses. But if I hand you something, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, which all these are silver, even though these are quarters and dimes, these are actually silver, 90%. 1964 or earlier. But if I give you 4 of these, you never seen these things before in your life, you didn't even know to look for them, and I show you 4 of them, and let's just be completely fair, half goes away. Half goes away. These two are spot on with some prediction. You also know, well, it missed two, though. But the other two, it nailed. Is that enough for you to say, I'm pretty intrigued all of a sudden? I think I want to see what else this report says in the future. The next time this report comes out, I want to see what it says. Because that was freaking interesting. If this is not a WebBot hit, you are mentally screwed up. I don't care what your beliefs are, our religion, it's hearsay, it's magic, it's witchcraft, it's complete nonsense. It cannot be complete nonsense when this just happened as it said would be happening very soon. Once again, on a Saturday night U.S. time and Sunday morning China time, a sudden burst of buying pressure in Bitcoin, driven by Chinese buyers, has spiked the virtual currency higher on dramatic volume, with Bitcoin now trading at its highest level since May 2014 in yuan, and up 250% since we first suggested this, an outlet for desperate to leave capital outflows in September. We note that the arbitrage of over 150 yuan points, Chinese currency, to massively more demand from Chinese buyers for now. Another weekend buying explosion in Bitcoin by the Chinese. It appears, just as we initially warned here, and they link it on Zero Hedge, that more than a few of the few 100 million Chinese have decided that the time has come to use Bitcoin as the capital controls bypassing currency of choice, and decided to invest even a tiny fraction of the $22 trillion in Chinese deposits. Now, here's a really good thing about Bitcoin and all altcoins, digital coins, currency, all of them. But we're focusing on Bitcoin right now. You see, when the price of silver goes towards $18 and the club says, guys, we need to knock that down because even though these charts are meaningless, some people out, to make it look like there's a real open free market in silver and gold. If we let silver go above 18, there's this technical line, and if that's breached, it's going to show that it's a bull market for silver, so we can't allow that, so we're going to have to knock it down. How do they knock the price down? The price setting mechanism of all commodities, which includes gold and silver, is paper contracts known as futures contracts, essentially derivatives, and they don't have any backing behind them of the real thing. They claim they do on paper. And the big bullion banks who have tons, billions and billions and billions of dollars to throw around, with the background being probably it's a government account that's using the big name banks to trade these futures contracts. But all aside, however and whoever they're using to do this, they simply print out a piece of paper. I'm looking around for a little piece of paper on my desk. They print out a piece of paper that says you own 100 ounces of gold. If you only had to pay 10% of that amount of times 100 ounces, you're only paying 10% to play this game. So if the price goes up, whatever it goes up by, you multiply by 100 because you have 100 ounces, and that's your profit. And you got to do this with only 10%. So that also means it makes it very, very easy for these big banks to buy a whole bunch, massive amount of futures contracts. They only have to come up with 10% for each contract. And then the left hand sells to the right hand when they need to push the price down. They flood the market with so many of these paper contracts, there will never, ever be enough buyers in a realistic market world. Thus, the price gets smashed. And as it's smashing, the right hand or the other bank, their buddy, whatever it is, however they set this up, is buying. It's all computerized, though. This is going to unload this many contracts. This one's going to buy them. Now the market's steady again. Back down a little bit. The club's happy. Up. Market's starting to rise again. Okay. Right hand, you sell back to the left hand. That's where all the action is. Now let me fast forward to Bitcoin. See, they're able to do this with pieces of paper. They set the price. Bitcoin with these pieces of paper. However, Bitcoin, there's only a certain amount of Bitcoin out there. So while the government and or banking system, they're pretty much, one and the same. Bankers own the government, vice versa. If they want to play this game of the paper selling to change the price, knock the price down. They actually have to go physically buy these Bitcoin off the market. They can't just print fake Bitcoin papers that says, oh, futures contract for Bitcoin. No, they have to actually go buy some that are on the market. However, having an unlimited piggy bank behind you, you could pretty much buy the whole market if you wanted to. However, if you bought the whole market, the price would be skyrocketing because there wouldn't be enough left for the rest of us, right? And the rest of us would say, well, I want some. Therefore, anyone who mines it gets the Bitcoin. And again, that's a whole different discussion. Mining is a digital version of mining. They get their Bitcoin. They sell it off the market. If the government's the only one buying them and you're standing out there or online trying to buy some Bitcoin, you're never going to be able to buy any. That means price skyrocket out of control. So what the government has to do, it has to participate in purchasing some of those Bitcoins. And if the price starts rising too rapidly, let's buy a little bit more to try to stem that if we can. And then at the same time, all this stockpile of huge Bitcoins we've actually purchased, big war chest of them, let's say, we can flood the market. Kind of like the paper contracts, they can actually flood the market. But when they flood the market, price is going to go down. People are going to be buying. But again, even if they do the same trick with left hand sells to the right hand of Bitcoin, right hand sells back to the left hand, there's still a real market out there. And these bankers, this club, the United States, whatever, the government, can't just print Bitcoin. They have to physically buy them. So whatever they have in their so-called war chest is real Bitcoin. But it's not as easy as it was for printing paper contracts. All they have to do is print. Oh, we need more contracts. Too many people are involved in the market. Print a whole bunch more. And that's why the ratio of paper contracts to real thing are so absurd. And we've seen 500 to 1 with gold. 500 contracts chasing one 100-ounce settlement of gold, when each of those 500 contracts should have 100 ounces for each and every one of them. That's not how the club likes to play. They want to leverage things and just make stuff out of thin air like they always do. Kind of like when you go and get a loan, they just make it up out of thin air and all of a sudden you owe it. So if we have a whole bunch of Chinese buyers all of a sudden who want Bitcoin and they start buying it all up, in the United States, war chest, the club's war chest, is sitting over here. We don't want to sell any at this point in time. All of a sudden, the market dries out because there's not enough Bitcoin to meet the buyer's satisfaction of getting it. Same thing happens. Price rises. So the U.S. government has to start selling some of it to feed into that. We can't let the Bitcoin price rise too fast. It's 500. Oh my God, it's 550. Holy shit, Saturday night, it's 600. Sell, 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 U.S. government. And imagine if they sell all their war chest out trying to deal with this rise in Bitcoin, and the Chinese demand is just gobbling it up. Now the United States doesn't have the war chest anymore. We can't sell to push the market down. We've been selling to just feed this new appetite that came up all of a sudden. Now you have what a real market's going to do, even though they've been trying to rig the price of Bitcoin by buying up a bunch of Bitcoin. Now they are forced to sell their Bitcoin to try to stem the rising tide or rising prices. They do not have the ability to print contracts. They have to either A, buy real Bitcoin and sell real Bitcoin, and that's it. It's the only choice they have. So, as Wedbot said, when 100 million or however many Chinese decide it's time to buy some Bitcoin because we see that buying investment housing in Canada and the U.S. is not working, we need to have something else where our government is going to devalue the dollar again. I need to save my wealth. I got to put it somewhere. Bitcoin. And precious metals too. But this video is about Bitcoin only. If the scenario I just gave you is actually playing out, the second the United States runs out of their Bitcoin, and I mean the government that's been hoarding them, the second they run out is the second when a real true market takes place and you see what happens to something when there's real supply and demand issues and the government cannot intervene. That's when you see true price discovery. And to see how fast Bitcoin blew through 400, 500, not even necessarily 400 because it was been bouncing around 400 for a little while now. But just back in September, October, I think that time frame, it was like 250 maybe at the high. And that's when the webbot came out and said, oh, and it had been that way for a while, that kind of price range, and even lower. There was no reason for webbot to come out and say, hey, the price of Bitcoin should be going over 408, then 428, and blah, blah, blah. Yet it came out and said that. And I'll be damned. December rolls around. Holy crap. It's bouncing around 400, 408, 428, down again, right? And I mentioned this because it was a webbot hit. And we said, well, it looks like it did it 3 times, like webbot said to look for. And then after it did it 3 times, it's going up and staying up. It's not coming back down to this 400, none. It's going up. And it looked like it happened twice in one day and then once in another day. So we said, oh, that's 3 times. I had a subscriber mention to me, hey, the price of Bitcoin ended each of these days at this price. Normally, when you look at the historical price of anything online, as far as stocks, shares, bonds, whatever, it's what did this item end at during the day? That's when you say that's the price. So if you take that into consideration, we were waiting on one more time for Bitcoin to go past that 408, 428 mark, whatever. And we waited because it didn't happen. We waited some more. That was earlier this year. Waited some more, and then finally, fairly recently, as in maybe a couple months ago, I think. I'm not sure on the timing. I'm not looking at my chart right now, but it finally breached that and said, okay. And it was 450. I think I mentioned it in a video a little while back that, hey, it looks like it's safely over 450 right now. I don't think it's coming back down below 428 or 408. And it didn't. Now it's up. So it blasted through 500, 550, 600 tonight as I'm doing this video. That is a hell of a move. So it appears, just as we initially warned, that more than a few of the few 100 million Chinese have decided that the time has come to use Bitcoin as the capital controls bypassing currency of choice, and decided to invest even a tiny fraction of $22 trillion in Chinese deposits in Bitcoin, whose total market cap, last check, was just over $3 billion. Sit back and watch as we witness the second coming of the Bitcoin bubble, one which could make the previous all-time highs in the digital currency seem like a low print. And once again tonight, that panic selling of yuan for Bitcoin has sent it surging in the last few hours, now above $600. This pushes Bitcoin to 2-year highs priced in US dollars. And once again, it appears the dominant buyer is in China. OK Coin Exchange, which reportedly has 90% of global Bitcoin traffic. This is the highest China Bitcoin price since May of 2014. Notably, with Bitcoin trading 4,187 in the Chinese currency and $615 US currency, and with US dollar versus the Chinese currency at 6.5624, China Bitcoin is trading around 150 yuan rich to dollar Bitcoin, once again suggesting strong demand from Chinese buyers. Both gold and Bitcoin have been rising since we first warned of the surge in Chinese capital outflows, but the virtual currency has dramatically outperformed it very recently, especially. So this is your Webbot update. Webbot hit, nailed, absolutely nailed this one. And it gives me great pleasure to give it to you like this. All the naysayers, all the thumbs down I get when I do a Webbot video, which the thumbs up way outdo the thumbs down. However, if I average 3 to 5 thumbs down per video, and all of a sudden I get 18 to 20, that's it. Jay Snips, what I do wrong, man? What I do wrong? Nothing. It's the haters of Bitcoin. Sorry about your luck. Now I'm going to do another video. I'm saving this one for Monday. Some of the conversations that I've had over the last week as I was flying to Tijuana, well, essentially San Diego, then Tijuana. Took a little short trip over to get my foot surgery done. Some of the interesting conversations and stuff that I actually had with some people, strangers, on the plane, in line, that kind of thing. And I want to talk about that. It'd make a good side video for me. interesting because normally I'm reading news and stuff. This is a personal story, and it's interesting. That's coming up next, but again, I'm not doing that. You won't see it till Monday.